The entire restaurant went silent the moment the cold red wine splashed across my face, dripping down my shirt, stinging my eyes, and soaking the tablecloth. Gasps echoed from every corner, and I could feel every pair of eyes glued to us. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And make sure you subscribe for more stories about wives cheating. My wife, Lily, stood there shaking, holding the empty glass like a weapon, her lips curled into a smirk as if she'd just won some twisted game. "If you can't pay the bill, maybe you shouldn't be eating here," she hissed loud enough for the whole place to hear. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and share this story. Because trust me, you won't believe the ending. I froze for a second. Not because of the humiliation, but because this wasn't just about the bill. This was about something much bigger, something I had suspected for weeks. The waiter hovered awkwardly, holding the receipt like it was a grenade about to go off. People at nearby tables whispered, some pretending to check their phones while recording us. I reached for the napkin, my hands trembling, but not from embarrassment. From rage. Just 2 hours earlier, she was laughing, touching my hand, acting like the perfect wife. Now she was putting on a public show, trying to make me look weak. My eyes locked on hers, and I could see the flicker of panic beneath her fake confidence. She thought she had me cornered. She thought I'd pull out my card and pay just to avoid the scene, but she had no idea. I already knew about her secret. I leaned back in my chair, letting the sticky wine drip from my chin onto the pristine marble floor. The waiter shifted uncomfortably, glancing between us like he was stuck in the middle of a war zone. "Sir, the bill?" he asked hesitantly. I took a slow breath, keeping my voice calm enough to make Lily's fake smile falter. "Actually," I said, looking straight at the waiter, "you might want to bring this bill to the gentleman sitting at the bar. The one in the navy suit." I tilted my head slightly, and Lily's eyes darted in that direction instantly. The blood drained from her face. Sitting there, pretending not to notice us, was a man I'd never met in person, but whose face I'd seen enough times in the background of her business trip photos. My private investigator had made sure I knew exactly who he was, her other man. And tonight, she'd been dumb enough to invite him to the same restaurant. The waiter looked confused. "Excuse me, sir?" I smirked. "He'll understand. Just tell him Lily sent you." Her jaw tightened, and she reached for my arm, whispering harshly, "Stop it. This isn't funny." But her hand was shaking. The whispers around us grew louder as people started turning to see who I was talking about. The man at the bar shifted uncomfortably in his seat, clearly aware of the growing attention. I wiped my face with the napkin and stood up slowly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You wanted a public scene, Lily? Let's give them a show." Gasps rippled through the room as I took a step toward the bar, every eye in the restaurant now glued to us. Lily scrambled up from her chair, her heels clicking desperately against the polished floor as she tried to block my path. "Stop, you're embarrassing yourself," she hissed, but I could see the panic in her eyes. I brushed past her like she was a stranger. The man in the navy suit froze with his drink halfway to his lips. "Alexander, right?" I said loudly, just enough for the nearest tables to hear. His eyes darted to Lily, then back to me. "Do you want to tell them why my wife's been Spending so many late nights in your hotel room? A collective murmur broke out. Someone's phone camera clicked. Lily's face flushed crimson. "This isn't what it looks like," she started, but I cut her off. "Really? Should we check the messages? Or maybe those little love notes you leave for each other when you think I'm too stupid to notice?" I pulled out my phone already, queuing up the screenshots. Alexander stood, putting his hands up like he could physically block the truth. The waiter backed away, unsure whether to intervene or grab popcorn. Lily's voice turned sharp, desperate. "You're twisting everything. This is business." I laughed bitterly. "Business? Is that what you call champagne in bed and matching bathrobes? Because the pie I hired calls it cheating." People were whispering louder now. Some had outright turned their chairs to watch. Lily's hands were trembling so badly she knocked over her own wine glass, the red liquid spreading like a stain across the white tablecloth. Fitting, really. I took one final step forward, lowering my voice just enough so she had to lean in. "You wanted me to pay for this dinner? You can split it with your boyfriend. I'm done paying for your lies." And with that, I dropped the neatly folded divorce papers on the table in front of her. Lily's hand shot out, snatching the papers. Like she could somehow erase what had just happened, but her voice cracked under the weight of all those eyes on us. You can't be serious," she stammered. "We have a life, a family." I tilted my head, letting her words hang in the air long enough for the crowd to drink them in. "A family?" I repeated, my tone dripping with sarcasm. "Which part of our family do you mean? The one you smile at in Instagram posts or the one you sneak off to hotels with after pretending to work late?" Alexander muttered something under his breath, but I cut him off with a glare sharp enough to slice glass. "Don't. You've had your fun. This is where it ends." Lily's perfect posture collapsed into a nervous hunch. I could almost see her calculating how much of the truth the room had pieced together already. "You're humiliating me," she whispered. I took a step closer, my voice just loud enough to echo. "No, Lily, you humiliated yourself when you thought you could live two lives and never pay for it." Someone at a nearby table whispered, "He's right." Another quietly recorded, phone angled just right to catch both our faces. Lily's lip trembled as she tried one last shot. "Please, we can talk about this at home," I smirked. "We won't have a home after tonight." I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small envelope, sliding it across the table. "That's a copy of the pie report. Keep it. You'll need it when you're explaining to your next husband why you got divorced in a 5-star restaurant." Her face drained of color, and for the first time all evening, she had nothing to say. The silence shattered when Lily suddenly stood, her chair scraping against the marble floor like nails on a chalkboard. "You're pathetic," she screamed, grabbing her wine glass and hurling the contents across the table. Red liquid splashed my shirt, dripping down like a bloody reminder of every betrayal she'd tried to hide. Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Phones came out like weapons, half the crowd ready to film the next chapter of the drama. I calmly dabbed at my shirt with the napkin, refusing to give her the satisfaction of seeing me flinch. "Feel better?" I asked flatly. Her nostrils flared. "You think you're some kind of hero? You just ruined my life," I chuckled, low and cold. No, Lily, I just stopped you from ruining mine any further. From the corner of my eye, I noticed the mater D approaching, looking like he wanted to step in but was too mesmerized to interrupt. Behind him, Alexander had gone pale, his gaze locked on the entrance. I turned to see what had frozen him. There, walking in with the confidence of someone who owned the place, was Lily's boss, her actual boss, not the fake client she'd been meeting. And he wasn't alone. Beside him stood a woman with the exact same necklace I'd seen. In the pie photos, Alexander's wife. The room went electric. Lily's eyes darted between them, panic replacing her fury. This isn't what it looks like, she began, but her boss raised a hand, silencing her like she was a child. Lily, he said evenly, you're fired, effective immediately. And as for you, he turned to Alexander, we'll deal with your contract breach tomorrow. I leaned back in my chair, the sting of the wine on my skin now almost sweet. This was the beginning of the end, and everyone in the room knew it. Lily's lips trembled, but not from guilt, from rage. She spun toward me, her voice trembling, but sharp enough to cut glass. You set this up, didn't you? I didn't bother denying it. I just let a slow smile spread across my face. I told you, Lily, I'm done letting you run the show. Her boss and Alexander's wife stepped closer, their presence turning the luxury dining room into a courtroom. Every diner's eyes were glued to us, forks frozen mid-air. Alexander tried to speak. It's not what. But his wife silenced him with a glare so cold it could have frozen the wine in our glasses. Then Lily made her move. She grabbed my phone from the table and shouted, "You've been spying on me," before trying to smash it against the floor. But before she could, I pulled out another phone from my jacket, the one cinched with the private investigators. Files. This isn't my only copy, I said, tapping the screen. The video began to play, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. Grainy hotel footage, time-stamped from her last business trip. Lily in a black cocktail dress, her wedding rings missing, stepping into a hotel room with Alexander. Their laughter filled the room like poisoned gasps, whispers. Someone actually muttered, "Oh my God, she's done." Lily lunged for the phone, but Alexander's wife intercepted her, grabbing her wrist with steel grip. "Touch it, and I'll have you arrested." The Mater D, finally realizing this wasn't going to simmer down, stepped forward with 2 security guards. "Ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave." For the first time all night, Lily's eyes looked truly afraid. Not because of the wine, not because of the public humiliation, because she could feel the walls closing in, and I wasn't done yet. I leaned back in my chair, letting the weight of the moment sink in for her. "Before you go, Lily, why don't you tell everyone here why you really picked this restaurant?" She shook her head furiously, her cheeks burning crimson. "Shut up, just shut up." But I didn't. I stood, holding the phone high so the curious diners could see the screen. With a quick swipe, I opened a screenshot of her text messages, her telling Alexander that she wanted me to feel small by taking me somewhere I couldn't afford, then forcing me to pay in front of strangers. Gasps rippled through the room. Alexander's wife actually laughed, sharp, cold, and bitter. "So this was your little game?" she said, glaring at Lily. How pathetic. The Mater D tried to usher her toward the door, but I raised a hand. "Wait, one more thing." From my pocket, I pulled out a neatly folded document and tossed it onto the table. It slid to a stop in front of Lily. She looked down her eyes widening. Divorce papers, already signed on my end. This, I said clearly, making sure the entire restaurant could hear, is the last bill you'll ever hand me. A few people clapped. Someone whistled. Even the Mater D smirked. Lily's face twisted between rage and panic, but the security guards moved in, guiding her toward the door. Alexander tried to follow, but his wife blocked him with a simple, "Don't even think about it." As Lily disappeared into the night, the room felt lighter. I sat back down, signaled for the check, and this time I paid it gladly. Not because I had to, but because I'd just bought my freedom. A month later, my life looked nothing like the wreckage Lily had left behind. The first morning without her felt strange quiet, almost too peaceful, but that silence became addictive. I no longer woke up to fake smiles hiding venom. I no longer feared my own dinner table. Word about the restaurant scene had spread through our circle of friends like wildfire. Some reached out in shock, others in secret admiration. Even a few of Lily's closest allies distanced themselves from her once the truth came out. Alexander's wife filed for divorce too, sending me a short message that simply said, "Guess we both dodged a bullet." I laughed when I read it. There was solidarity in survival. I poured my focus into work, and with the distraction gone, my business tripled in less than 6 months. I even started training for a marathon, something Lily had always mocked me for. One Saturday, as I crossed the park during my morning run, I spotted her at a distance. She was alone, sitting on a bench, scrolling on her phone like she was waiting for someone who wasn't coming. Her clothes were expensive, but her posture screamed defeat. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered. The wine dripping down my face, the humiliation she wanted me to feel, and how she laughed when she thought she'd won. I kept running, not just away from her, but toward the life I'd built without her poison. Because in the end, the best revenge wasn't the public humiliation. It was showing her I was thriving while she was still stuck in the mess she'd made.